Guys, it's Doc's weekly comic pickups, and I have got an insane week for you this week. I hope that you guys found everything that you want at the comic shop and that you get to enjoy your books half as much as I got to enjoy what I read. Let's start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week is Conan, issue number 32. This is written by Jim Zub with art by Doug Braithwaite, and you get to see the aftermath of his battle with the Son of the Tooth. And he's healing, and this mysterious woman comes looking after him. And she says, I require a bodyguard. I require someone to look after me on this holy journey that I'm going to take. And she says, this sacred task requires only one man, and thus it must be him. I need protection to travel to the edge of the eastern desert and return to my village. It's a few days' ride from here. Escort me safely, and a grand reward shall be yours, well worth the time and effort. And what I love about this book is the color work on it. It is absolutely top-notch, and it elevates this book to a level of not an independent book, but something far greater. And at the end of the day, whenever Jim Zub finishes his run on the book and this Conan saga comes to a close, he, along with the pencilers, the inkers, the colorists, and everybody that worked on this book can sleep well, knowing that they created something and crafted something that is going to last beyond their lifetime. Something that is almost above reproach, because this book is entertaining and it just almost feeds the soul. It's crazy how a character who is almost 100 years old can be as fresh and as appealing as Jim Zub writes Conan. But you get to see Conan assaulted by a pack of hyenas, and in the end, Arroya, who he is guiding and protecting, she loses her horse. But this is the other part I love about this Conan book. It's epic escape. You get to see all of these old ruins and things like that. And I've told you guys before that I like to do urban exploration. God, I would love to go into that temple. How cool would that be? I mean, almost impossible to reach. But once you got to the top and you climbed inside that temple, what might you find? So you get to see them on their travels, and eventually they come to the cursed plains of Marda. And he says, these were your ancestors? She says, trapped in endless conflict with snake worshippers to the west. For over an hour, the pair slowly make their way across the vast graveyard, until eventually some of them wake up, and Conan has to enter into pretty much a berserker rage in order to save this Arroya woman who he has sworn to protect. And in the end, Conan stands supreme. He survives thanks to that rage that boils inside every Sumerian that they can't pull out of themselves very often, or else it would exhaust them, it would kill them. But he survives. And she says, you are all that was promised and even more. He says, promised? Promised by who? And they enter a shrine. It says, marred by violence and the steady march of time, yet still imbued with remnants of that divine spark that brought worshipers here oh so long ago. He says, you told me we were returning to your village, but this place has been ruined for ages. And in the end, she was just a lost spirit trying to go home. And she tells Conan, you have served me honorably, and when your time to meet your maker comes, I will be the one that is next to you, holding your hand and guiding your path and marching you to your great reward. It's a beautiful story, guys. It's something greater than a comic book. It's a story old as time. To be someone honorable, to live a life that at the end of the day you can say, I made mistakes just like everybody else, but I was a truly good and honorable person. And that's who Conan is at the end of the day. Guys, if you're not reading this book, you're missing out. That's all I can say about that. It is one of the best books I've ever read. Next up, Nectar, issue number 4, the final issue of this particular miniseries. And it says on the back, despairing Lillian's loss to Pastor Grant's rampage across the island, Amos considers ending it all. But the mysterious butterflies have a surprise in store for Grant, and an even better one for Amos. As Misery Island begins to burn, the showdown comes to a vicious conclusion. And this is written by Jeremy Robinson. Artists, inks are Anna Paula Martello, and layouts by Francesco Francini. And you get to see Lillian, after she got shot by the preacher, fall into the water. And she sinks, and Amos chooses to sink with her, although he gets shot in the leg by the preacher. He says he's wounded, he won't get far. Spread out, cover the cove from all sides. And so 2 other guys go after and looking for Amos and Lillian. And in the end, one of the guys finds Amos and says, the pastor's a good man. And Amos retorts with, the pastor is a flawed man, the same as you and me. He's led all of us to our deaths. So they fight. And the man says, I don't know what you can do for me. And Amos puts him out of his misery. This story moves really fast. It reminds me of Dead Samurai. There's not really a whole lot of narration boxes and things like that move the story along. It's left up to the art and the art only to really push through some of the lighter aspects of the story, while leaving the dialogue and the artwork to do the heavy lifting to get you through to see where the path goes. Okay? It's kind of like you have a pen light that really shows up detail. When you shine it across your body or shine it across your face, it shows the detail. But you have a floodlight on your head that you can click on, and that shows you the path forward. And the artwork and the narration, the dialogue are the ones that do the heavy lifting in this story. And the pen light belongs to the narration boxes and things like that you don't really see. So the preacher continues to be chased by the butterflies, and in the end, he says, I failed you, Lord, unless this is a purge, and as in the times of Noah, then it's me. I am meant to survive. And a voice rings out from behind and says, in the time of Noah, God removed the wicked from the earth, Pastor. If he's doing the same here, he would have begun with you. And Amos shoots, but does not shoot true. And so at the end of the day, then the pastor is about to shoot him. One of the butterflies intercedes, and then eventually something nasty gets a hold of the pastor. And so he's no longer a threat. And I'm not going to spoil the end of this because it is going to continue in another miniseries, but it was really a lot of fun. Okay, it wasn't as in depth as an old issue of Batman by Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil. It wasn't as explosive as Battle Beast. But at the end of the day, it told an interesting story about this time in Salem and the island, Misery Island, and it's going to continue, it says, in, come on, one more page. Nectar returns in Night of Sorrows. So keep your eyes out if you really enjoyed Nectar like I did, and keep your eye out for Night of Sorrows. I don't know when it's coming. I'll have to do some research on it, but as soon as I know more, I will let you guys know, and just in case you enjoyed this book as much as I did. All right, next up is Green Lantern, issue number 36. This is by Jeremy Adams with art by Edgar Rara. And just as I was thinking I might drop this until Hal Jordan becomes the main focus of the title again, then Jeremy Adams and company pull me back in by showing Kyle show off as the White Lantern, and then his roommate Odyssey, she's trying to help her become a big movie star. Meanwhile, Big Belly Burger Company in downtown LA has a meeting, and they're kind of met with people that the guy who runs the company thinks that it is simply people in costumes. And you have Fry Eyes, Salad, Big Belly Bear, and Shakespeare. And and they look cute, they look harmless, they look funny, but in the end, it turns out that they're so much more than what you're thinking. And eventually they attack the owner of Big Belly Bear, and it's like a hostile takeover. Meanwhile, we get to see the return of Jade, who is Alan Scott's daughter and sister to Obsidian. And Jade looks like she's extremely happy to see Kyle and hasn't seen him in a long time. So this issue rekindles the fire of my joy to read about Kyle Rayner. It's nice to see Jade back. Odyssey I didn't really ever know that much about, and I'm not saying that she was a possible love interest for Kyle, but it's nice to see that Jade can step back into that role as a prominent Green Lantern and as a prominent person in Kyle's life. That was such a big part. Their relationship was such a big part of his initial growth as a character. So Green Lantern is not going anywhere off of my pull list anytime soon. And let's see, next. Okay, we got two books. The next to last book is Escape, issue number 8. And we get to see here Rick Remender and Daniel Acuna absolutely continuing to kill it on this book, along with Milton killing everybody that he can find. He's almost like just a Punisher type character as far as his resilience and his ability to take damage. And you have these dogs and these bats. And Milton is a dog, and the bats are the enemies, kind of like the Nazis. And they are out to kill everybody that they can in order to find Milton. Now, what I will say is that the bats, one of their high command, lost a son. And he says, "My sweet boy, I did this to you. Go now, back to the stars, little prince." So you get to see him mourn the loss of his son because he pushed his son to find Milton and to bring Milton down, and Milton's just a tank. He's just, he's built about like, let's see, somebody who's big but not too big. I would put him up there with like Albert, WWE. So he's, 6'5", 6'6", just big, brawny, burly guy. And it just seems like he can take as much punishment as need be in order to protect his family, protect the side of the army that he's on. And he ends up alerting them and letting his side know using the radio. He says, "The turtle is down. I repeat, the turtle is down." And so his commander says, "Are you certain?" And he says, "I laid Demo on a time delay with my own hands, so it burned with my own eyes." And so they plan to take out that entire town, just wipe it out, because the Titan cannon, which is what Milton destroyed in the previous issue, was what was keeping that little town from being completely obliterated by gunfire, by air assault. And the brother of the man that saved him, Frederick. He says that cannon kept his bombers out of our sky. It protected us. What happens with it gone, Anders? Do you need me to tell you? His friends come and they finish the job. They bomb us to hell, innocent and guilty alike. This man hasn't liberated us. He signed our death warrants. And so he goes to return the favor. And about that time, the bats find where the hideout is. And Anders tries to help Milton get to underground shelter. And he says, I keep telling Anders to leave me, and he won't. He refuses. And so Anders says, factory runoff tunnel, it leads under the cordon and out by the canal. And about that time, Frederick comes back one last time, and he says, you have nothing to fear from me. And he tries to attack Milton. He says, you led them here. And he says, I didn't lead shit. I didn't bring them. You keep this up, and we all die down here. And so in the end, he attacks Milton again, and it forces Anders to attack his own brother. This book gets better and better. It's just like The Sacrificers. Each issue gets higher stakes, and we see the casualties of war, the cause of brother versus brother. It breaks down a society. It brings people to their knees, and they do things and say things and attack people that they normally never, ever would. It's excellent, guys. This is one of the best books on the shelf, bar none. All right. And the next to last book is Corpse Night by Michael Chavez and Matthew Roberts. And this book also absolutely stepped it up. The Corpse Knight and his daughter are still in search of Joan of Arc. His daughter gets poisoned by one who is supposed to be a friend. And the Corpse Knight finds an apothecary, takes her to the apothecary, and she offers help to, the apothecary offers help to the Corpse Knight and his daughter. And then she says, wait, you're sick too. You have the Black Death. You have the Black Plague. You can't come here. And so he reaches out for the vial of potion that is supposed to help his daughter and heal his daughter, and the woman gets scared and falls backwards, and the potion scatters to the ground. And so he takes her on. He picks his daughter up, and they move on. And they find two nuns. And she says, and one of the nuns says, you there, are you a man of God? And the other sister says, who cares? He's big and we need help. And she says, please, our horse will die if we can't free him. And they say, we can help her. And, you know, I mean, it's not lifting a building over his head or anything like that, but it's awesome to see the Corpse Knight just lift this entire wagon up out of the water and get the horse out as well. And let's see. And Foy has a nightmare where she sees her mother. And she says, Mama, you're back. Papa came back too. We've been looking for Joan of Arc to help us, to fix him, to fix his condition. And she notices her mother's reading a book of, you know, occult sciences and things like that. And she says, Mama, where did you get that book? And the mother turns around and says, oh, Foy, it's always been in our family. So it's like a nightmare. But she wakes up and she says, please don't ever leave me. And that's kind of like very similar to something that you would read in The Sacrificers. It's very poignant and it's very personal, and it hits you on a personal level. And from what I understand, Michael Chavez has directed a lot of horror movies, and so you get to see, you can't do a horror movie, a good horror movie, without really digging into the humanity of the characters that are either doing the killing or becoming victims or having traumatic responses to the victimization and the death that surrounds them. So I think that makes this book by Michael Chavez and the artwork by Matthew Roberts just absolutely pop off the shelves, and I can't wait to see where this story continues to. I think it's only 6 issues, so we're halfway there. And the last book I wanted to talk about today is Swamp Thing 1989, issue number 3 by Rick Veitch, Tom Mandrake, and Trish Mulvihill. And you get to see Swamp Thing meet the source. And he sees the hand writing the burning hand writing, and Swamp Thing says, I once assisted a being named Metron in his attempt to reach what he called the source. But in the end, all we found was illusion. Is this more of the same trickery? And the hand says, search within. And Swamp Thing says, my heart is heavy with loss and sadness. I have been separated from the person I love for so long that it's almost unbearable. And the source sweeps a hand across and says, search deeper. And he says, part of me knows that you are my true home, and I loathe to ever leave you. But Abby needs me, and I am incomplete without her. If I am reborn in time, is there a pathway back to my wife and child? And the hand says, long and difficult. But eventually, he makes that choice to go back. And meanwhile, we get to see somebody we haven't seen yet very much of, and it's Anton Arcane. So we get Arcane coming back and trying to make a deal with one of the Lords of Hell. Let's see. Nurgle is who he's talking to. And so he says, yonder pool contains the purest distillation of hatred, soul syrup burned down from the diseased minds of the damned since time began. To imbibe it is to share in a power that sustains all of the kings of hell. Drink deep, Arcane. And so he says, bring me John Constantine. And what is great is there's a lot of throwbacks to earlier parts in the series. Like you have Heaven and Hell in an eternal arm wrestling competition to see who can get the better of the other. You get to see Swamp Thing grow for 100 years on this mountainside. And it says, sharing the cliffside, Alec has brothers and sisters. The eldest being is Yurgsul, whose proud, leafy boughs spread so wide they threaten to shade out his smaller siblings, until a sudden summer storm sends Yurgsul hurtling into the valley below, leaving his family to share their grief and relief along subterranean fungal networks. So I remember reading and saying that at some point during this story that he would meet Anthro, who was kind of an almost forgotten character from the 1960s. And back in the day, I actually thought to write my own ending to this story, and I picked up for dirt cheap on eBay. I'm talking, 2005, 2006, right after eBay was a thing. I picked up a couple of issues of Anthro, and it was really interesting reading. Anthro was a boy in the primordial times, in the, not like the times of the dinosaurs, but the cavemen times. And he searches the top of this mountain. He says, I will tell Rayona of my feelings for her and give her one of your golden tears. So you're just like, whoa, wait a minute, golden tears. And he calls him Weeping Tree. And so where did this amber claw that keeps sending Swamp Thing through time, where did this come from? And you get to see that Alec remembers Abby. And he says, Abby, oh my God, the baby, the aliens lost in time, Arcane, I've got to pry myself loose. I've got to find a way to get back to Abby. And so as the Rock Riders, the Bear Clan attacks with these fiery logs to try to kill Anthro and his people, then Swamp Thing tries to fight them off. And he says, still stiff from the years of inactivity and stuck in this particular form, I can't seem to descend into the green. And so then he's caught on fire. And he lays there, and he feels like he's dying. And Anthro says, we have lost many from our clan to the Rock Riders, including my beautiful Rayona. Thank you, Weeping Tree, for trying to help us. And for this one last tear to remember you by. What is it, you say? That certainly looks like the piece of amber that has, been the thorn in Swamp Thing's side this entire time. And meanwhile, Abby's having the baby, and who should show up but Anton Arcane. So this is an awesome part 3 of 4, and I excitedly await the finale from Vetch and Mandrake and Mulvihill next month. This is going to be an absolute blast to finish this series off. So did you notice anything different, guys? Every book that I read this week, I absolutely loved it. There were no hit and misses, no sputterings and then dying outs. Everything hit on a 10 out of a 10 or an 11 out of a 10 if we're going for Spinal Tap references. Everything was great. I wish every week could be just like this and everything just pop off the page, scream at you, grab you by the throat and pull you into the book, because I love stories like that. So guys, let me know what you picked up at the shop this week. I hope that you enjoy your stack just as much as I did mine, and I will see you guys in the next upcoming video. Take care.